It takes a lot of things to build great software products. A good process, great technology, and good infrastructure, among other things. But the most important component is, of course, the people, the team. There are multiple roles to be played while building a product. These include the business analyst, the programmer pair, the designer, the architect, the project manager, the product manager, and finally, you, the customer. We'll now describe the what and the why of each of these roles. But before that, let's get on the same page on a few key points. While the previous slide may indicate 7 full-time people, they're really just 7 roles that are played by the team. In reality, it's usually 4 to 5 people, of whom 3 of them will be on the team the whole time, and the others will be more like part-time consultants on the team. The other thing to keep in mind is that not all roles make sense in both phases of the project. For example, we don't need programmers and managers during the exploratory phase. As the customer, you're the owner of the product. Therefore, your availability to answer our questions would be your main responsibility. This includes the time for doing video calls, answering our emails, attending demos, and providing feedback on the release features. This translates to about 10 hours per week of your time. The requirements are quite vague and subjective at the beginning. The main job of the business analyst is to make these as objective as possible so that they can be consumed by programmers and converted into working software. The BAs balance their time between creating just enough documentation and communicating with the customer and programmers. Other than the features and the stories, the BA also documents the requirements as wireframes and user acceptance criteria. The UAC, as they are succinctly called, are fine-grained business rules attached to every story. While the programmers consume the documentation created by the BA gets feedback on how well they have consumed it by doing what we call mini demos. These are quick ad hoc demo sessions just between the programmers and the BA. But it is only during the demos with the customer that the BA gets feedback from the customer. Multiple demo calls are scheduled per week with the customer to get more frequent feedback. Finally, the BA also plays the role of a tester on our team. The programmers write automated tests for all the code they write, so in theory, there is really no need for another tester per se. But we've seen that the automated tests cover only about 80% of overall quality checks. So we mix in exploratory testing to take care of the other 20%. This kind of testing requires the tester to put themselves in the shoes of an actual user and take what are called tours around the product. While doing this, additional scenarios sometimes get uncovered. These discoveries are converted into new stories and added to the backlog. The BA is the only full-time member on the team who is involved in both phases, right from the beginning of the project all the way to the end. The programmers. Other than coding the requirements, they also write automated tests, and they run these tests many times a day. They follow a procedure called behavior-driven development, or BDD for short. They are also what we call generalizing specialists. As a generalist, every programmer on our team has the skills to be able to code in any tier of the system and in multiple languages. So for example, every programmer on our team can code in Ruby and JavaScript. Most of them can also write native code for iPhone, iPad, and Android applications. But most programmers also tend to have an affinity towards certain technologies. Some of them also have an architectural bent of mind. To take advantage of these affinities, we pair programmers with complementary strengths, and this helps to build more robust, well-rounded products. The programmers are of course full-time on the team, just like the BA, but they typically start getting involved in the construction phase. Before we move on to the next role, let's talk a little bit about pair programming. Pair programming, as the name suggests, is a practice where 2 programmers work on the same program at the same time. One of them plays the role of a navigator and the other plays the role of a driver. To make a very broad and somewhat simplistic distinction, the navigator is more like the thinker and the driver is more like the doer. The programmers typically sit next to each other, sharing one computer, but sometimes having multiple monitors. During the course of the day, the programmers interchange their roles from navigator to driver and back again. Pair programming will probably come across as counterintuitive to you. So let's talk a little bit more about the why behind this. Some of the advantages are more tangible and immediately visible than others. For example, more discipline, lesser distractions, improved morale, and collective code ownership. But beyond all of these visible advantages, the most significant reason for doing pair programming is to keep the maintenance cost of software low. We can achieve this with higher disciplined coding practices such as test-driven development and constant refactoring. Both of these practices tend to be much more effective and consistent during pair programming. These practices become incredibly useful as the code base grows in size. It is not unusual to see code bases which are a nightmare to maintain. Gartner's research found that the total cost of unmaintainable code is in excess of $500 billion, and that's with a B. We talk more about this in the sustainable engineering video, and that's in the engineering and technology section in case you're looking for it. So in summary, what all of this boils down to is that it is a little bit more investment upfront in return for much higher predictability in project schedules along with high quality. Please refer to the dissertation paper link shown here if you would like to learn more about all this. Let's now move on to the next role in the team, that of the UX designer. As the name suggests, this person is responsible for the overall user experience of the product. UX design includes both form and function. Form is the beauty of the product, whereas function is the utility that it provides. Balancing these two aspects of design effectively is a common challenge in a lean startup. Please read the article linked to at the bottom of the slide for more details on this. Considering that the runway is limited for most startups, our approach is to focus more on the functional aspects of the design and focus less on the form aspects of the design. So what does this mean? Here's a list of items that fall broadly into the function and form parts. Focusing on the items on the left results in better usability and information discovery, whereas those on the right result in better aesthetics and an emotional connection with the user. While the items on the right are important as well, we prefer to focus on the functional items during the first release of the product. The architect is a senior person who's been around long enough to have a good feel for what technologies work well in various contexts. This role allows for little margin of error because what we're talking about is the foundation of the product. The architect starts getting involved in the project right from the beginning at the exploratory phase. She works along with the business analyst to get a good grip on the product requirements. He finalizes his architectural recommendations and shares them with the team toward the end of the exploratory phase. These recommendations are made after considering key aspects such as extensibility, scalability, security, and the quality of the community or vendor support for the component. Beyond the obvious benefit of determining the architecture of the product, these recommendations also help the programmers to provide more accurate estimates early on in the project. The product manager is responsible for ensuring two fundamental things throughout the project. Are we building the right product and are we building it right? Those are the what and how questions respectively. The role requires taking a macro look at the whole product at least once a week. Stepping back like this allows for looking at the product from multiple angles, including agile software development practices, technology, user experience, the competitive products landscape, feedback collection mechanisms, feedback from beta and live users, and even a good understanding of business models and revenue generation streams. While this kind of wide perspective is very useful in ensuring that the product is on track, it's equally useful in being able to decide on the priority of upcoming features and stories. The importance of doing this right cannot be overemphasized. Needless to say, all of the above activities require frequent conversations with almost everyone else on the team. And finally, the project manager. She tracks the project schedules closely and reports daily and weekly progress. She also is usually the first person to react when there are signs of trouble, either in the project schedule or in the product itself. Almost any problem can be resolved in a timely and effective manner if it's caught early enough. And this is precisely what the project manager is expected to do, that is to discover and broadcast very early signs of trouble. Finally, she also ensures that the project gets the feedback and attention it deserves from the part-time members on the team. The architect and product manager sometimes end up working on 2 to 3 projects at the same time. So the onus is on the project manager to get their timely attention when needed. And there you have it, a detailed look at every role on the team. But here's a quick recap of the various roles again. There's you, the customer, and then the BA and the programmers who are full-time members on the team, followed by the UX designer, the architect, the product manager, and the project manager, which are all part-time roles. Thanks for watching. In the next video, we reveal how the team collaborates to build the first release of a working product in 8 weeks.